Hello and welcome back to the Hazzabhajan YouTube channel. It is Harry here, and today it is time for another installment in my football alphabet series. For those of you who may be new to the channel and haven't seen an episode in this series before, I take a look at various clubs and players whose names and surnames respectively begin with a particular letter of the alphabet. And for today's installment, we're looking at 5 of the best clubs whose names begin with the letter G. If you want to check out any of the other episodes I've done in this series thus far, there is a playlist link in the description of this video, or there'll be one at the end of this video if you want to check any of the other episodes out. And if you go on to enjoy this particular video, of course, please don't forget, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And without any further ado, here is my Hall of Fame of 5 of the best clubs whose names begin with the letter G. Number 1. Galatasaray. Galatasaray are the first of Turkey's traditional big three, alongside Besiktas and Fenerbahce, to feature in this series, and as I'm sure their fans probably point out on a regular basis, they are also the most successful of those three. 13 people came together to form Galatasaray in 1905, the most prominent of whom being Ali Sami Yen, after whom Gala's former ground was named. Their club's name is alleged to have come from either a local school or a chant of Galatasaray, meaning gentlemen of the Galata Palace. They joined an Istanbul-based league that consisted solely of English and Greek teams, up to that point of course, and then won it in 1909, heralding the first success by a Turkish club in that competition. They ended up winning it 10 times before moving to the Istanbul Professional League in 1952, and 7 years later, they were one of the founding members of what we now know today as the Super League, Turkey's first nationwide league, from which they have never been relegated. Over the course of 63 years, they have lifted the title on 22 separate occasions and the Turkish Cup 18 times, both of which are unmatched by anyone else. Their golden age was probably from the early 1990s to the early 2000s, when they won 7 Super League titles in 10 years and became the only Turkish team to ever win a European competition, when they defeated Arsenal on penalties in the UEFA Cup final in 2000. Besides just those numbers though, they have garnered a reputation of having one of the fiercest fan bases in the entire world. Their fans dubbed the Ali Sami Yen Stadium Hell, holding up signs saying "Welcome to Hell" for visiting teams on European nights, and in 2011 they apparently broke the record for the loudest roar registered at any football stadium with a reading of 140.76 decibels. However, in 2000, 2 Leeds fans were stabbed to death by Gala supporters during a skirmish between the two sets of fans a day prior to their UEFA Cup semi-final encounter, which is undoubtedly a blot on their history. Famous players to have donned the red and gold kit over the years include Hakan Şükür, Didier Drogba, Wesley Sneijder, Georgi Hagi and Fatih Terim, who has had 4 separate stints in charge of Gala. Number 2. Genoa. A club steeped in tradition in Italy, Genoa may have slipped into the realm of also-rans over the past few decades or so, but their importance to Italian football cannot be understated. They were founded as Genoa Cricket and Athletic Club in 1893 by James Richardson Spenceley, one of the godfathers of Italian football, making them the oldest football club in Italy. They took part in the first ever friendly game in Italy in 1898 against a collection of players from 2 Turin-based teams, and were one of the teams who signed up to the Italian Football Federation upon its foundation that same year. From 1898 to 1904, they won every league title on offer barring one, as they dominated the early stages of league football in the country. They then went a decade without lifting a league title before turning to another Englishman by the name of William Garbett, the first professional manager in Italy, who was dubbed Mister, which has stuck as an official term for manager. After his debut campaign, in which they won the Northern League, was scuppered by the outbreak of World War I, he won the club 2 more league titles in 1922 and 1924. Those remain Genoa's last 2 championships to date, and they haven't even finished as high as second since 1930, but their overall tally of 9 league titles, the same as Roma, Lazio, Fiorentina and Napoli combined, puts them 4th in the all-time rankings. Ever since those glory days, times have been what can only be described as mixed at best. They've only finished inside the top 6 of Serie A on 3 occasions since the World War II, they've only competed in Europe twice, in 1991-92 and 2009-10, albeit they reached the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup in 1992, and they've even slipped into Serie C on 2 separate occasions. One of those slips into Serie C was entirely self-inflicted though, as in 2005, needing a win to guarantee promotion back to Serie A, they paid already relegated Venezia €250,000 to throw the game between the two sides. Genoa won that game 3-2, but the authorities spotted Venezia's manager carrying a bag of cash upon leaving Genoa's stadium a few days later, so they were denied promotion to Serie A and demoted to Serie C instead. They finally made it back to the top flight in 2007 after back-to-back promotions, but they were relegated last season after a spell of 15 years in Serie A. Number 3. Grêmio. One of Brazil's so-called Big 12, I was actually quite surprised to see that Grêmio have won a lot less than what I thought prior to researching them, certainly when it comes to national competitions at the very least. They can trace their roots back to a man named Candido Dias, who invited the players from a friendly game in Rio Grande in 1903 that he went to watch for a meal a week later, and spoke with them about how to form a football club. From that meeting, Grêmio was born. They played their first match in 1904, and 5 years later, they dished out a 10-0 drubbing of Internacional in their own debut game, who would go on to become Grêmio's fiercest rivals. I mean, talk about a rude awakening. In 1919, they formed a part of the inaugural Rio Grande State Championship, and 2 years later, they won the first of their 41 regional titles to date, which does see them lag behind Internacional, who have 45. From the 1940s to the 1960s, the club embarked on many lucrative foreign tours, including one in Central America from 1953 to 54 and one in Europe throughout 1961, which saw visits to 11 countries. However, these tours didn't exactly translate over to domestic success, as despite forming a part of Brazil's first nationwide league in 1959, it took them 22 years before they could finally get their hands on the Serie A title. In 1991, they suffered their first relegation down to Serie B, but they quickly became a force in the South American game once again under Luis Felipe Scolari, winning the Libertadores in 1995 to add to the one that they won in 1983 and another Serie A title in 1996. Another relegation would arrive in 2005 though, and barring another Libertadores triumph in 2017, a runners-up spot in the 2008 Campeonato, and a Copa do Brasil win in 2016, they are yet to return to the top of the Brazilian game on a consistent basis. In fact, they were even relegated again last season, although they look well placed to make an immediate return to the top flight, sitting in 3rd place as of the time of this recording, 6 points ahead of Londrina in 5th. Number 4. Girondins de Bordeaux. Okay, we normally call this team Bordeaux rather than Girondins de Bordeaux, but if I went by their simplified name, they don't stand a chance of featuring in the B video, so I'm going with Girondins de Bordeaux so that they can be a part of this series. They were originally set up in 1881 as a multi-sports club that focused primarily on gymnastics and shooting, and it took until 1919 before football was finally introduced to their roster, and 1937 for them to turn professional. Within 4 years of turning professional though, they already had a Coupe de France in the bag, and upon promotion to the French top flight for the first time in their history in 1949, they stunned the country by winning Division 1 in their debut campaign at that level. They came runners-up in the league and cup twice apiece during the 1950s, but suffered relegation back to Division 2 in 1960, although their fortunes turned once again after mogul Claude Bez bought the club in 1979. The decade that followed brought immense success, with 3 Division 1 titles in 4 years between 1984 and 1987, and 2 Coupe de France titles added to their trophy cabinet, and they also reached the semi-finals of the European Cup in 1989-90. However, they soon entered administration and were relegated 2 years later, but they returned with a vengeance, and after reaching the UEFA Cup final in 1996, they claimed their 5th top flight league title in 1999. They were also the ones who put an end to Lyon's unprecedented reign of domestic dominance in 2009 by winning the Ligue 1 title with a squad featuring the likes of Johan Gourcuff and Marouane Chamakh, picking up their 3rd Coupe de la Ligue in their history that season as well. Over the past few years though, the club has fallen on hard times, being hit particularly hard by the COVID-19 pandemic and the collapse of the Media Pro TV rights deal. In 2021-22, they came in last in Ligue 1 and were originally demoted all the way down to the Nacional for their financial irregularities, but upon appeal, they were reinstated into Ligue 2. Number 5. Gamba Osaka. Our final entrance see us hop over to Asia to profile Gamba Osaka, a club who originally started out as a team made up of players from Yanmar Diesel FC's B team in 1980, and who are mostly owned nowadays by Panasonic. Their original name was Matsushita Electric SC, but upon the professionalization of Japanese football and the creation of the J-League in 1993, they changed their name to Gamba Osaka, with Gamba coming from the Japanese word Gamburu, meaning to do your best. They were one of the 10 founding members of the J-League, and barring the 2013 campaign, they have spent every year since then in the top flight. After 9 years of mostly mid-table finishes, they finally sprang into life in 2002, as over the decade from 2002 to 2011, they only finished below third twice, becoming a competitive force in the Japanese game. Although they only won one league title during that time, they did also pick up 2 Emperor's Cups, 1 J-League Cup, and the only AFC Champions League in their history in 2008. It was quite a shock, therefore, when in 2012 they plummeted to 17th place after finishing 3rd the season prior and suffered relegation to the 2nd tier despite scoring more goals than any other team in the league that season, although they won promotion back straight away. They then completed their comeback by lifting the 2014 J-League title, making them only the 2nd team after Casio Reysol in 2011 to win the 2nd and top tiers back-to-back in Japanese football. They have finished 2nd twice in the years since then and picked up 2 more Emperor's Cups, but the league continues to elude them since 2014 of course, and they currently sit just 1 place and 1 point ahead of the relegation playoff spots with just 5 games to go as of the time of this recording. And that just about wraps up today's video, looking at 5 of the best clubs whose names begin with the letter G. Look out for the players video, which should hopefully come in the next few days or so. But if you enjoyed it, of course, please don't forget to check out any of the other Football Alphabet episodes that I've done using the playlist link in the description or hopefully on screen now, as well as liking the video, subscribing to the channel, ringing the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a video straight away. And why not, you can follow me on Twitter at Hazzabhajan. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.